Imagine this scenario: 1,000 people sign up for your webinar, 300 people show up, you run the presentation, and you pitch at the end, and only 20 people buy. That is under 10% closing rate. You go back and you look for what went wrong. Maybe the offer was weak, maybe you needed more social proof, or maybe the presentation needs a rewrite. You make the changes and you run the webinar again, but you get the same number of sales once again. What happened was that those changes that you made weren't actually the problem, so you still have the exact same problem you were struggling with, and that is still going to continue to tank your closing rate. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what that problem actually is and how you can fix it so that you can have a higher closing rate on your webinars. Let's get into it. When a webinar does not close, the first instinct is to look what to fix. Most coaches improve the offer, maybe the price was too high, they add more bonuses, then they run it again, but it's still below 10% closing rate. They add more social proof, more case studies, better testimonials, they run it again, but it's still below 10% closing rate. They redesign the presentation, cleaner visuals, tighter structure, they run it again, but it's still below 10% closing rate. Every one of those changes makes logical sense, but none of them move the closing rate because none of those are the problem. It's the architecture of the presentation. That is what nobody is telling you. Now, let's cover the teaching trap. Here's what actually happens inside a webinar that struggles to close. The coach shows up prepared, the content is solid, the delivery is good, and the audience is engaged, the energy is high. Then the pitch lands and it goes silent. A few people buy, but most people don't. And the coach walks away confused. The problem was the 90 minutes that happened before the pitch. Most coaches build their webinar like a masterclass. They teach everything they know, they give the audience real value, they walk them through the framework, and then they make a pitch. The audience feels educated, they feel good about what they learned, but they don't buy. Here's why. Teaching satisfies the need. When you walk someone through the exact process, the exact steps, the exact framework to solve the problem, you remove urgency. Education and urgency are opposites. The more you teach, the more equipped they feel to handle it on their own. Now let's cover what you should do instead and what belief shifting is. A webinar that converts is not built around teaching. It's built around removing the specific beliefs that are blocking the purchase. Most of your audience has 3 beliefs blocking them from saying yes to your offer. The first is, I can figure this out on my own. They've been consuming content for months. They've seen the framework, they've taken courses, and they read books on the problem that they have. So they believe that they have the right information and they can build it themselves. Until that belief is gone, they're not going to buy. The second is, this will not work for my specific situation. Their market is more saturated or more competitive, and they believe that what worked in your case studies will not translate to them. Until that belief is gone, they're not going to buy. Third is, now is not the right time. They just spent money on something else. They need to get other things in order first. Until that belief is gone, they're not going to buy. Every person in that webinar is carrying some version of those 3 beliefs. Every story in the presentation is there because it removes one of those belief blockers. Every case study is chosen because it speaks directly to the situation objection. Every framework is included because it installs the belief the prospect needs in order to close. And the content is not the focus. Belief shifting is. The content is simply the vehicle to deliver the belief shifting mechanisms. Now, let me show you exactly what this looks like in practice. In a teaching webinar, you map the content by topic. Section 1 covers this, section 2 covers this other thing, and so on. Each section delivers value on its own, but the pitch feels disconnected from everything that came before it. In a belief shifting webinar, you map the content by objection. This story goes here because it removes the I can do it myself belief. This case study goes here, it kills the this won't work for my situation objection. The framework goes here because it handles now is not the right time resistance. Every element has a job beyond delivering value. But by the time you transition into the offer, every objection that the audience has already been addressed. You're not pitching and then handling objections. The objections are handled first, and then the pitch comes. That is the structural difference. It is the difference between a webinar closing over 20% of the audience and one stuck below 10%. The closing rate is not a reflection of how good your offer is. It's a reflection of how well you shift beliefs before you ask for the sale. If you're making $30,000 or more, you have an audience and you have a proven offer. If you want to book a call and talk about potentially adding this into your coaching info business, make sure that you book a call. Now, one more thing that I would like to say is that building out this entire webinar funnel is very time intensive and it requires a lot of attention to detail in order to nail it down and to make sure that it fits your niche, your market, your offer, and your coaching program overall. So if you want to work with me, make sure that you book a call in the description below because it is very, complex and it takes a lot of time. Even though I have, virtual assistants, team members, and AI tools to help accelerate the process of building this entire thing for you. It's still, like I said, very time intensive. So I can only take on a certain amount of coaches every single month. And if you want to work with me directly and you want to talk about potentially implementing this into your coaching and info business, make sure that you book a call in the description below and we can talk more.